If there is such a thing called practice, it is living in itself. You can never escape that. That's the first thing with practice. Now, when you set aside a time like what we call Sesshin, or unifying the mind, it's important then to really put your whole self into it, because you practice wholeheartedly putting yourself into whatever's in front of you. Then that becomes a habit in your daily life. So what happens here informs the rest of your life. What happens in various parts of the rest of your life informs our Zen. It's not just a one-way street. So in time is that there is no escape from awakened activity. Traditionally they just say the Buddha's activity, but I want to get away from that word. The awakened one's activity. Each one of us is awake. The one that we focus on in Sesshin, or uniting the mind, is the one who sees through these eyes, hears through these ears, smells through this nose, functions again on a momentary basis without cease. The one who's always at home. We have to be very careful with the thought process, especially in Sesshin. It always must be remembered that we can think anytime. We can always return to thinking, no matter how how long you practice. You never lose thought. Don't be afraid of thought. But for the time being, just put thought on one side whenever you get the chance. This is probably the most profound aspect of Zen teaching. And if you're going to trust in anything in terms of Zen teaching, is to put thought on one side. Now, the reason behind this is that you're not practicing thinking. You practice in thinking, thinking is what you get. If you practice what we call non-thinking, putting thought on one side, then what happens is then the other senses begin to enter in. So seeing, hearing, tasting, touching, smelling, these things come forward, and then thought takes its natural place amongst these six, rather than trying to run things, trying to work things out. And this will definitely work over a period of time. The second part of that is be patient. Don't expect these things to happen overnight. I've had people come to the center and they'll do a session for a few days or a week, and they'll be very disappointed in that they weren't able to end their suffering. The thing is, just in context, look at the fact that the Buddha tried to end suffering 2,500 years ago. Still less suffering today. The important thing is to make the attempt, because it reduces the suffering of the world, not only in oneself, but in the people around us. And you should always remember that it doesn't just happen in a linear way. My piece comes forward, but also the people who are around us are also affected by that. Now, what we've found over not only this generation, but since the time of the Buddha, if we lay aside a period of time and now you've got to fill in the blank on this. In the Zen school, we say that there's 5 kinds of Zen. There's a kind of Zen that fits every single person on this Zoom. Not that it necessarily just fits into those 5 kinds of Zen, but you got to find out what you need to do as a human being. It's not that you need to do the Zen thing and follow that. It's like the Buddha did, where all of this goes back to his 7 days, where he said, okay, I've been practicing displacement activity for 6 years. And all it's done is make me the best at eating 1 or 2 grains of rice a day and almost killing me. But I haven't done anything to really deal with my inner angst as a human being. So the thing that is applicable to us today is that if you make that commitment to yourself, to see into your own nature and to deal with those things that are most important to you, you will actually begin to do that. It'll actually begin to occur. Now, the more firm your intention, I'm really going to do this, then the more chance, the more likelihood there'll be that that actually occurs. And I've seen this, I've been doing sessions now since about 76 or something like that. I mean, it's embarrassing. But the thing that I've seen is that when somebody really makes that commitment, then these things get taken care of. I remember when I went back to England, I used to do Sesshin there for probably about 26 years. And Jokai Sensei, who's going to be talking tomorrow, said to me on day one, he said, I'm going to go through Mu, this Sesshin. And I'm kind of going, yeah, right. And then sure enough, three or 4 days later, because of that commitment to himself, it doesn't have to be to something else, to himself, he did it. He went through it. And over, when that commitment occurs, then there is a result, there is a fruition in that. And then obviously then that begins to extend to the rest of your life as well. So don't think that the session ends with this period of time. Like during session, you're going to be faced with many things, especially if you're on your own in your own space. There's so many things that you can do nowadays. I mean, you can list them, but social media, streaming, reading, having an argument with your spouse, anything like this can come up. The thing is, any of these things that happen in terms of your own life, they have to be processed. And so that's going to add another layer of thought. So really, during this period of time, if you do nothing else in it, is keep it simple. Just try and limit the input that's coming in. If you get up and you walk, or you have to go out, you have to do some work, again, keep it simple. Put it in the context of, I really want to awaken this session. I want to practice awakening. And then in that process, then you'll have a tool that then you'll be able to carry into the rest of your life, or as the rest of your life. You won't get so distracted so easily. The basis of Buddhism is really concentration, and that's the first part of what session is about. So always remember that no matter what you do, don't let distraction take over. Don't let your mind disappear somewhere else. Even when you're resting, allow yourself just to rest and learn something about wholeheartedly resting. When it's time to sit, then just wholeheartedly put yourself into sitting. If you're in pain, be wholeheartedly into pain and learn something about it. And in that process is that all aspects of human being then are highlighted and they're learned from, so that when these things occur later, is you don't need to avoid these things. You can enter into them, be at peace in the midst of them, and also help other people as they go through these things. Now, the next part of session is don't regard any part of session as being less valuable than another. So like if you have to, say, go to the bathroom, then get up, keep that same mindset, stay focused, do whatever you have to do. And then just keep that basic presence that's there all the time. Let it be seamless. Really focus on the flow of session. When you work, keep that same mindset. Do it wholeheartedly. Don't let any ideas of or less or more enter in. Just put all of those things on one side. Do it. Don't let ideas of doing more enter in. Just allow yourself to do things wholly, mindfully, immersed into whatever you do. Now they say that that's the basis of the process, is concentration. Allow the mind to be here. Now remember that concentration is very flexible. It's not just a fixing of concentration on one place. It's like when you go outside, it's important to have like a panoramic awareness, so that you're aware of your environment, especially those of you that live in LA. You know, it's just really have that. Don't become fixated. Allow the mind to then encompass whatever is there. When you come back in and you're focusing on Zazen, really allow yourself just to be present to whatever's going on. If emotion's there, really be that emotion and learn from it. There's no other teaching than whatever is going on now. And it can't be another way because it isn't. So that's the thing, is learn from it. Now, if you're doing practices like koan, and I know a few of you are doing koan, remember koan isn't something else. It is whatever is going on now. Now, if you're working on a saying of an old master, is put yourself in that position. How would I respond now at this moment in time? And then enlist your own angst or your own unclarity of that particular issue. If you can do that, then koan ceases to be something else, but it is an unfolding of your own life. And in time, koan is just an example of one's basic presence on a momentary basis. It's like Dogen said that there are those people that think that koan are unintelligible words and phrases, but that's for people that don't understand. For those that understand, Zen or koan is simply words within the principle, or expressions from within the principle. The principle being your life at this moment in time. Now, in saying this, I'm not trying to say that koan is, say, better than these other practices. What I'm trying to point out here is that do it wholeheartedly. Immerse yourself into whatever situation. And then if you can do that, then in daily life, you do the same thing. You immerse yourself in that situation because it is the only teaching. Now, as we go on, the Buddha taught that in his entire life, he just taught two teachings. The first one being what's regarded as emptiness. Now, for many people, that's very misleading because, the word empty in English means devoid of, something missing. Now, empty really more experientially means that it's flexible, it's devoid, or it doesn't have a fixed outcome. So as you live your life, it's not going to go down a certain direction. It's just like in say counting the breaths. When you're counting the breaths, maybe your intention is to count the breaths from 1 to 10 with, each breath 1, 2, without a thought getting in the way. The actuality of it is more than likely is that you realize how difficult it is to lay thoughts on one side. And then through that process, then you realize something's a bit deeper, is that it's very difficult for us as human beings to allow the mind to be present. And then consequently, then when you talk with other people, you find that everybody else is in the same boat. So you're actually learning connection and empathy for the people around you. So those teachings are coming in from the side. So rather than this linear thing, this is what practice is going to do, is that you begin to see all of these side teachings about being present, how you interact with people. It's all practice. It's not fixed. There's no fixed outcomes here. People think they're going to come in and become enlightened. When I was with Maizumi Roshi, he once talked to everybody and said, what's advanced practice? And people were saying, being deeply enlightened, being deeply engaged in things. And he goes, no. And then nobody really got it. And he goes, appreciation and gratitude. Appreciation of what? And gratitude for what? This first thing is appreciation for what you already have. Again, this is the basis of the Buddha's teachings. This vast and empty, which is the basis of our own being. We are not defined. We define ourselves. Right from the beginning, we are beings. Then we narrow ourselves down, and then we try and define ourselves and stay within parameters. But already our mind is vast. It's as vast as the world. I'd like to use the word universe, but maybe it's a bit too cosmic. But it's as vast as everything that's around. If we stay within defined parameters, which again is another aspect of the work that we do in Sesshin, is to go beyond what we think we can do, or go beyond who we think we are, to the point where the descriptions disappear, and we really see that vastness and that depth that is our life right from the beginning. So this so-called emptiness includes all activities that we are, and the definition, our own definition, begins to drop off as we do this practice again, momentarily, all the time. Now, the second part of the Buddha's teaching is this cause and effect. So, obviously, is that for many of you that are here on this Zoom class right now, is that you've had to set a lot of things aside and reschedule things so that you could do this particular retreat. Also, for yourself, you have to prepare your mind for doing this. You should always value that aspect, and what is the cause behind that. Basically, for each one of us, we have a degree of suffering that occurs in ourselves. So you could say that the suffering is motivating the practice. To do the practice, you set aside all of these things. You make sure that your kids are taken care of, that when you have time, you can meet with them. Your work things are being taken care of by other people. You focus on that. You make sure all those things are taken care of. And then there's some space that's there. You've created that space. Now, the thing is then, how do you use it? Again, with this cause and effect. If you allow this space to permeate. Now, I'm not talking about spacey. I'm talking about you created this space in your own mind. The important thing now in terms of Sesshin with cause and effect is don't let it fill in again. Like many people will do Sesshin like a sport. All right, I'm going to do this session. I'm going to get a clear mind. So session finishes. Okay, now I can do all of these things, and I'll fill it up again. And then you got the same work to do. So what I really recommend is just watch what you bring in, what kind of things that you do. In that process, you'll learn what you like to think about, and you'll also learn about the cost. When you learn about the cost, you might go, well, maybe I'm going to put that on one side. So you're gathering information. And in time, it becomes far easier to be with who you are on a momentary basis without having to bring in these thoughts that make you in a certain way. Most people like to be happy, but some people also like to suffer. So I'm not going to say what those things are, but when you see them, there's always a cost. That's that cause and effect. Now, if we take this thing called practice, which is our life as we are, which is cause and effect, we have come to this point because of the ways that we've lived. This is the turning point. This is the only point where there is any power in terms of our own action and activity. If we want to be a certain way, then practice it and do it. There's one of my favorite koans, which happens to be in Keizan Zenji's collection of the transmission of the light, not the lamp. And in it, I think it's Doan Do, he says, if you want to be a person of suchness or thusness, You should practice suchness, thusness, without delay. And then he adds the caveat, seeing as though you're already such a person, why worry about such a thing? It's a very simple phrase that he's using. But I found it really, really important. So if you want to be at peace, don't look for absolute peace that's going to come in the future. That much that you know peace now, put it into practice. And by practicing it, then no matter where you are at any given time, is it then that begins to grow in yourself. Don't think you can't do it. Just really put yourself in 100%. And then you'll notice that there will be changes in your life over even a period of 6 months of doing that. When you take responsibility for that, and don't worry about the absolute result at the other end. Nobody has attained that, not even the Buddha. Why? Because it's a process. You can't compare yourself with someone who died 2,500 years ago. But you can match yourself. You can be at peace in yourself. That peace cannot be fathomed. And that's a wonderful thing if you can do that. Now you can fill that if you want to be a person of suchness, whatever that suchness is for you, what you really value, and you practice that to the hilt, then you can actualize that in your life. Remember, Zen is not just a matter of getting some intellectual idea about what enlightenment is. It's the actual change in one's own life from somebody that attracts suffering to someone who can support people around them and take care of our environment. Why? Because our environment is our life. It's not separate. It's not that's out there and it's something else. And the more you practice, that sense of connection will really come in. And that cause and effect, you can begin to work with it in a very positive way, how to make those changes. And also how to receive input in that way and understand and learn from whatever is occurring in your own life. And it doesn't really matter, where you are. I mean, I've had several phases in my own practice. When I started, I would do sessions like this, but obviously not on Zoom. We didn't have that. It was the time when they had record players and stuff. But I would do them simply to really come to peace with my own being, my own mind, and sometimes sit all night and do it that way. So that was practicing on my own in the basically the suburban town in England. Then I came over to Los Angeles and practiced at ZCLA in the middle of Koreatown for about 16 years and practiced there. And I'm not really trying to give you a bio of what I've done. I'm just saying that there's different phases of practice. And then coming up to Mountain Center in a more rural area, that the same mind that encompasses circumstances fits into any kind of practice opportunity that's there, whether it be dangerous, whether it be happy, whether it be taken center stage, whether it be in the background. The living in itself is the practice. How do I want to live in this? Can I be at peace in the midst of this and make these decisions, carry out these actions in that way? So Sesshin gives us an opportunity to, one, reflect on how we want to live and then actually actualize it by living in that way. Remember, there's no escape from being who you are. But part of it is don't be afraid of who you are and the ingredients that you have. See how those things operate, again, on a momentary basis, and then work with those ingredients. Use your talents. The more negative parts, just see them, experience them, and try not to let them out that often in that way, especially during session, And then through living on a momentary, a daily basis, is that you befriend all of these parts. I used to hear all these things about poor translations about the people talking about smashing the ego. It's nothing to do with that kind of thing. All of the energy that you've had ever since you were born is here as your life. Now, how you use it is really up to you. Some of the more aggressive energies, they're useful every now and then, but you don't have to use them all the time. The peaceful energies are there. They're useful under certain circumstances, not under others. The thing is, how do we use these things? How do they come out? How do they affect others? All of these things are about living, not this abstract thing about life and practice. When we say carrying practice into daily life, it's really a fallacy. Practice is daily life. Just like Dogen said, going forward in practice is a matter of everydayness. So this is your everyday. It doesn't matter what world you're in, whatever your social status, whatever your color, whatever your activity is, that these are the ingredients. Now, how do I, when we use the word enlighten, it means to shed light on. How do I bring that out into the open rather than having parts hidden? And then once they're in the light, then it's easy to work with. Now, remember, enlightenment isn't like a stage and then you're above the line in that way. Is that, no, you see things, then there's a responsibility to do things about them. And then that's also open in many different ways. But again, with this cause and effect, is just look at what you do and make sure that you want to live in that way, because whatever you set up now is going to continue. Now, that as a general rule for Sesshin, the most important thing is wholeheartedness and how you really use it. So however many days there are left in this particular phase of your life is, when it comes to the end of that phase, just ask yourself the question, now, how do I want to continue and what do I want to continue? Because you can do that. Even when I was living at ZCLA, for 8 of those years, I was working out as a general contractor. And what was most important to me was that how I made that transition, because I didn't want to lose what I'd gained in terms of the effort that I put into the Sesshin. And at the same time, it wasn't a matter of keeping a boxed in concentration when I went off to work the next day. So the thing is, how do you make that transition? Pay some attention to that, and then in your own mind, put it that your session's going to end sometime next week rather than on, say, Sunday, if that's when it's finishing. In that way, you begin to get a bit of continuity. And by then doing session over a period of time, then it really begins to permeate your life. And then the difference between session and your daily life isn't much. I remember talking with Tenshin Roshi or Bernie Glassman when he just after he left ZCLA in the 80s, and being a young precocious monk, I said, well, don't you miss Sesshin being over there in New York? And he just very cuttingly said, my life is Sesshin. I mean, now I understand that. I see that. What is the difference? The emphasis is again on this being. It's not something that you attain. It's on that being. It comes back to the initial statement the Buddha said after he was awakened, when he saw the morning star, and he said, I, all beings, simultaneously attain the way. Right now, simultaneously, this is our awakening. No matter how much you want to value it, where you want to place yourself, if you don't tell the story of it, you can see awakening in itself. You're awake. What do I do now? You're a Buddha. You're awakened one. What do I do now with this? And then obviously then you see the tendency for us to fill this up, cover it over, because we like to think about all kinds of things. But that liking to think, fill up our minds with all kinds of things, then robs us of a certain intimacy with the people and things that are around us. So Sesshin, it is very important as a window into our own lives, but then broaden that window until it's panoramic. At this point, I'd just like to open it up for any questions or comments.
All right, I think most of you are, where are we echoing? Most of you know how to use the raise hand feature, or you can chat Jisha at PHZC if you have a question or comment for Roshi. Thank you, Roshi.
Thank you.
Come on, gang. Anybody in this room?
I always have questions about this.
We've got Akasha and Lori.
Come sit over here.
Hey, Akasha.
Hey, good afternoon.
Hi.
Thank you so much for your talk. It's lovely and very helpful. You know me, I always have questions about how to combine my form of your general contracting with the Buddhist practice. It's always very challenging, and you've helped me a lot along the way this year and last year as well. And I guess it's just constantly a process of perfecting it, isn't it? That we keep running into areas of discord or just wanting to perfect our communication with others and wanting to chisel away the pieces that are not helpful. And so I just want to say I really appreciate this this that you've offered me, and I welcome others to enter into a discourse, a discussion with yourself about how this happens in your life, and how can we improve our getting along with the world outside of us, the world that is constantly full of friction and questions. And I just thank you for the help.
Yeah, and I think one of the most important things is that your life has not been written.
Right.
So it's open-ended in that way. If you define it as something, then there's going to be problems. But it's like, so then what is my practice in terms of daily life? How do I want to live? And then making sure that's done. And there's mistakes in that process.
Yes.
But then there's learning from those mistakes. And the Buddha wasn't different. He made mistakes too. They said that he gave a sermon once on emptiness and 300 people committed suicide.
Oh.
So, luckily I haven't done that, but neither did I risk it either. It's that certain things I won't talk about simply because I've made mistakes in those lives in the past. But the thing is, in terms of living is, and I'm sure that everybody has had that. You've met people in realms where you wouldn't regard them as spiritual or religious realms, and they have warmed your heart, or they've taught you things, or even cut through your own bullshit. So that's another aspect of practice, is being ready. How are you ready to respond or to interact is by being awake and aware. The basis of meditation. The second part is immersing in, and a lot of people learn from that kind of thing by thoroughly being it, and you can see that in people too.
Yes,
It's like when Jim was in training at ZCLA, I could, here up at Yokoji, he'd be driving the tractor and he'd be completely lost and focused in it. There'd be no Jim there, there'd just be the tractor, And you can see this in people when they're, the minds are not elsewhere, they're focused on it, Even, you know, like you're working with concrete sometimes, and we had somebody that really didn't want to be at the mountain center, and his concrete was terrible. We swapped over to someone that wanted to be there. The concrete was great. You know, so it manifests in whatever you do. And it, for me, it's very encouraging when you see somebody go, this is my life. This may be not what I want to do at this moment in time, but I'm sure as hell going to do the best that I possibly can with this. Because then you know in their lives that they're going to do that and it's going to be taken care of.
Exactly.
You know, so then that's that extending the sphere of practice. If you find yourself doing something that is unknown, go into it. It's great. You know, that's what monk really means in Buddhism. It means a home leaver. What does that mean? It means leave your self-definition alone and enter into whatever's in front of you. You know, and then learn. You know, so rather than being the expert, be the one who's learning.
The one with the ears.
Yeah, and that's always there's no sphere where it doesn't reach. You know.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. So grateful.
Thank you. Thank you.
Brenda, go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hey, Brenda.
Hi.
Hey.
I actually met you 17 years ago at a session up on your mountain. And I was pregnant at the time. And my son is an amazing young man. And I think it had an impact on both of us. One of the things that happened during that time and has happened at other times is this feeling of expansiveness, and where that the body's no longer there, and it's this, but it's scary. And I think I'm at a point in my life where I'm afraid, I'm tired of being afraid of that. And feeling like, well, I need to be part of like a monastery or something in order to really be supported and safe in that experience. Yet my life is very full, and that's I don't know how to do that. And so can you address kind of with that fear?
I mean, what you're saying is a very familiar part of practice. As the story ceases to reach who you are, you see that you're baseless. But the other thing is that, you know, the meat puppet moves without you having to do much about it. The blood gets pumped around, the eyes see. All of these things are manifestations of this emptiness or unfixedness. But the problem is that we tend to see this expansiveness, but it's observational. The important thing is forget about the observer, just enter into something. Don't worry about where you're going, because you never go anywhere. But at some point is that you will befriend that vastness, and you'll be lost in it. From that point on, it's not a problem. But remember, you're not going anywhere. But the Howard Cosell of the mind, the commentator, will drop off at some point, but you won't drop it off. It'll drop off of its own accord. So you don't need to worry about that. Now, the second thing is just regarding fear, is that you can be run by fear, or you can experience fear and then channel it, its energy. It doesn't have to go into a running energy. It can go, okay, I make a stand here. What is this? Once I went through a period of intense fear with Tenshin Roshi, and I tell this story a lot, and it went on for about 9 months. And I was in the kitchen washing stuff, you know, with him, washing dishes. And he saw that I was afraid. He said, "Tenshin, you know what fear is?" I said, "Yes, I know what fear is," because I was feeling it. And so then I said, "Well, what is fear for you?" And he said a very ballpark thing, which really struck me. He said, fear is not being clear about something. And it made it less scary. You know, it's just like, okay, fear usually mixes things up, and it's like, oh, run. But the thing is just like, okay, look at it, feel it, experience it. And then what in time is that then it becomes clear, then it's no longer scary.
To go towards it rather than away from it.
Yeah. And it's like my dad was a soldier in World War II, and he said, I never, if somebody says I'm not afraid, just don't believe him. He said every hero that I knew faced up to their fears and used that energy to do what they needed to do at that moment in time. I've never been in that kind of situation, but I've been in situations that are very scary. And the thing is, if I do that and I face up to it, I find a way through it. Again, it's open-ended. It's not going to end up the way that my stories say it's going to be. You're going to go crazy. This is going to happen. This is going to happen. Those are creations. But if you face up to whatever's going on, whether it be in Zazen or in daily life, and you're open to the circumstances, then one way or another, you find a way through that you can live with.
Yeah, that's helpful. And that feeling of groundlessness, there's a lot of fear around that. Instead, get used to it and just befriend it.
Yeah, and the thing is that one way or another, it takes care of itself. I would hear that from my teachers, and I'd go, yeah, it's okay for you. But I've also found that that's true. By doing it one way or another, it works out in a way that I can live with it.
Right. All right. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for your practice.
Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. Anybody else? You can unmute. Oh, Philip, go ahead.
Hey, Philip, carry on.
Yes. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you, Tenshin Roshi, for the talk. Are you able to hear me okay?
Yeah. Thank you. That's good.
Okay, great. Yeah, I would just love if you can speak on maybe your own experience, and then maybe in a general way of this balancing act of being present with our practice, and also present with, I guess, our practice when we're like, I'm thinking of like when I'm at my job, or when I'm also parenting, and when I'm doing professional work, and even just time-wise, when I have to be at one specific place, as opposed to another one, and integrating those kind of things.
Yeah, remember, it's all one in the sense that it's your life. So focus on that part. So when you have to make choices, be there 100% for those choices. Don't let, I should be doing, occupy the whole space, do that, then move on to something else. It's like, for me, I've been in the Zendo today, and then I came back and made coffee for my son, who's in the other room doing remote learning. He's got a skateboard injury, so then my mind goes into the skateboard injury. Then I do a phone dokusan. But whatever I do at that moment in time is I try and do that. But I try also explain to people what I'm doing. They can think whatever they want to think, but for me, this is what I do. I try and integrate all these parts as my life because they're important to me. Every one of them has equal importance because it's my life. And if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it to the hilt, And then, it's like tomorrow, actually the day after tomorrow, the head of the White Plum's going to come up, and you'd think we'd be doing spiritual things, but we're getting the band together. And so when I do that, I'll do that 100%. I'll play bass and I will sing 100%. What does that mean? Is I'll do the best that I possibly can. There's no ometer there. You know, the thing is, you go through these things, you do the best you possibly can, you fall flat on your face, you get up, you do the next thing. And then people can think whatever they think, and they will. But enjoy, appreciate, and do the best you possibly can as a human being. You know, and all of these parts are parts of the life of the Buddha. And learn from the Buddha. He left his kids. You know, I'm not saying you should, but he made mistakes there. Don't think, you know, I mean, sometimes I would like to, but no, you know, it's like, yeah. Integrate it all. It's all important because it's your life. Nobody else can do that for you. And nobody is as accomplished at it as you are.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And somehow I think Roma wouldn't put up with you walking out on her anyway. She'd come hauling.
No, Roma's good.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kick your ass. Yeah.
Yeah. Philip has a beautiful family. Melissa Kazumi, you said you had a question?
Yes.
I don't want to favor the online too much.
Thank you so much, Tenshin, for your talk. It was
You're welcome.
Yeah, there are so many moments that just really resonated with me. But the thing that's standing out the most is the topic of mistakes. Because whenever I'm in Sesshin, I feel like it's just one mistake after another. Like I'm just spending half the time trying to make mistakes, and then the other half of my time like being upset with myself for making a mistake. And it's funny. It's something as simple as like I was doing do-on during service, and so like I rang the do-on, and then Shiro said, you know, a little too loud, and I already thought it was a little too loud. He says a little too loud. Now I know it's a little too loud. And then like I for sure, and then I do it again, and it's like almost louder, and I'm like, really, like, you know, and then I have you know 10 more times to practice, and like some are right, some are wrong, but I'm spending the whole time getting like kind of like I'm watching my own brain, kind of judging myself about the mistakes, right, and then
don't
right,
don't
I know, like it's like. At the end, of course, I say, you know, I might at the end of every service, or whatever, we kind of apologize to each other, and no one cares. Everyone is like, great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you know, you say you make one mistake after another. Is that's what Dogen said. Life is one mistake after another. Yeah. I mean, that's what he said, you know. I mean, I can critique it, but the thing is, if you do that, you risk things and you move into it, you're learning. And that's an important thing. It's like you're talking about Zendo procedures. When I went to ZCLA, when I first came over from England, there was about 120 people there. And I wanted to learn Doan, or the bell ringer for service. And so with 120 people there, there wasn't much chance, you know, when you just got there. So on a day off, when there was service, I would go in there and I would just take that seat. We just take that seat. And then I'd watched it and I would do it. And then I would either do it okay, or I would make mistakes. And then I would get feedback, but I wanted to do it. Now you sort of getting where I'm at is if you want to do it, and don't worry about the feedback. Is do it. Yeah. And that's how I learn. And it's the same with people. It's like I was talking with Bruce, who we've studied together under Maizumi Roshi, and he studied under me for a while, and we play guitar together. And he was saying, well, you're so accomplished in all these different areas. I said, well, I became accomplished because something needed to be done. And no one else was there to do it. So I learned. He goes, oh, I thought you came equipped with all of these skills. No, you enter into something, you learn it, you become accomplished in it in various ways, you know. So that's it. If you want to do something, step forward, do it. Yeah. You might get some feedback, you know, who are you to ring the bells, you know, or something like that.
Right.
And me, I'm doing it.
Yeah. You've been doing a great job, and Chalet here has in training as Jikido as well, and it's
Mhm.
doing great. You step into it.
Thanks.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Bill, how's Cora?
Cora's great. Thanks, Shiro.
Mhm.
And Tenshin, welcome to Altadena. Haven't
Oh,
seen
yeah.
you here in a long time.
Yeah. Right. Should come back again.
Yeah. You're talking about thinking, and I can't help but reflect on a retreat at the Zen Center versus a retreat here. It's all the same Bill that's going through this, whatever that means.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I have a major event I'm doing on Sunday, and I have a lot of chores related to that. And so
Mhm.
the time when I feel that I'm really engaged with what I'm doing is when I'm out there weeding or cleaning or doing those
Mhm.
things.
Yeah.
And the big difference for me is that when I'm at the Zen Center, I don't have anything else to do but show up for sitting. I can take a walk.
Yeah.
That's nice. But somehow, I hate to use the word easier, but it's easier to become engaged, totally engaged with Mu or whatever I'm doing when I'm at the Zen Center than it is when I'm here with
Yeah.
all of the things and the distractions and the mess I have in my office here.
Mhm.
Anyway, there's a question buried in that somewhere, but I don't know where it is.
Well, again, the thing is that may be true for you, but for me, that's not the case. For me, I've always got things that I need to do and things I need to organize, and people are going through things and all that kind of thing. For me, it was a lot easier when I was in the city, because I didn't have the breadth of those things. So, the thing is, try wherever you are, is that this is my life now, and how do I do these things that are my life right now? Don't worry about how it is in another place. And it's like, for me, it's, sometimes when we go through natural disasters and stuff like that, that's a hell of a lot of work. And I start going, well, I should have done this and I should have done that, rather than this is my reality now. And if I learn to take care of my reality now, no matter where I am, I'll have that talent later on. Otherwise, I start getting into that AA thing of doing a geographical, or, it's like, when I get to such and such a place, I'll be able to do it. In reality, is I never get to that place, because this place is always the place that I need to do the learning. And the thing is that if I don't take care of it now, that tends to come up again and again in my life. So this, whatever my circumstances, wherever I've chosen to be, this is exactly what I've got to master.
I think one of the things you said that's very helpful to me is to, before session, before sitting, before my daily sitting, whatever, to clear the space for it.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that. I hadn't thought of it that way. And by golly, I didn't clear nearly enough space for this. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you. Good seeing you, Bill. Good seeing Altadena in the background too.
Oh yeah.
Unless there's a backdrop. Yeah.
No, it's actually my garden.
Oh, nice. Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. It's great having you for the time you can make. So thank you for being with us. Valerian.
Great name. Hey, Valerian.
Thank you for sharing. There you are. You've been moving around the screen from time to time, so I found myself darting around. There's something I'd hope you could dig a little bit deeper into, the idea of commitment as the agent of creativity.
Yeah, if again, it's not commitment in something else, it's commitment in your own life. And if it means something, then make sure that you do it. That's what commitment is for me, is that I was never committed to organizations. I was committed to the work that those organizations did. And then usually there was a reciprocal benefit that occurred in that. So if I really want to do something, I remind myself I really want to do it, because there's always other things that I could be doing or would like to do. But okay, right now, this is what I need to do. In many ways, I would say that, Zen is, in essence, voluntary restriction, so that I can become better at those things that I value. If it's not voluntary, then it becomes a problem. So, if I want to become better at soccer, then I go to soccer camp and I focus on playing soccer and I become better at it. With being able to deal with this moment in time, come to a Zen center, and that'll be forced down your neck until it just becomes your embodiment of living. And of course, you can do that in your daily life too.
Right, and it seems like that it feels like there's something else that happens, right? It's almost like the commitment is almost an invitation.
There. Yeah, all your energy is there, so it's there to use,
So is that then the reflection? It's almost like, it feels like it's a reflection of your own energy, that commitment, which is almost why you see the thing coming back at you.
It's a focusing, it's a condensing in that way. And that'll bring up a lot of other stuff, but you'll see the distractions, you'll see all of these things, and you have a choice, and then you can put it all in one direction. And that's Sesshin too,
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And as a teacher, when somebody says, and it doesn't often happen, they say, I will do it. Simple as that. And then all the ducks are in order, and then it gets done. Nothing will get in the way of that kind of commitment. But I'm not saying it should happen. It's when you're ready, do it. And then nothing will get in the way at that point. I remember there's a story about Maizumi Roshi. In 1983, there was a crash at the Zen Center, and we were $6,000 a month in the red, and that was in 80s money. So, probably about 2.5 times more than it is now. And we were really worried. We had about a year's operating funds until we were bankrupt. And I remember Sesshin went to see him, and she said, she said that scenario, and he says, don't worry, there'll always be a place to practice. And, that's the thing, is that wherever you are, there is a place to practice. It's not the circumstances. There's good times, there's bad times. All of it is your life. All of it is practice in itself. Now you make a commitment to acknowledge that, then a certain relaxation also occurs. Is you're in it. I'm not moving towards something else or becoming something else. And then whatever happens in life, then you see that it's practice in itself. So might as well practice the things that are a benefit. Okay.
Yeah, that I will, it strikes me that that's another facet of the answer to Philip's question. And Philip, I'm leveraging some of our conversation. It's simply that commitment to I will pulls the pieces together. And you do that naturally in your practice as it is.
Yeah.
Gabriel?
Thank you for your talk, and got a lot out of every question. I am interested in what you were talking about, harnessing the energies of your emotions and redirecting them, and how to begin that practice. And I'm wondering if internal energies can be harnessed and redirected. How to do that with like the macrocosm of fear and paranoia that's on and around our culture right now.
Yeah, I mean, you ultimately you can't do an awful lot about externals, but you can see that how that operates in yourself, and by looking at that dynamic, and quite often you understand other people and where they're coming from in that way, and then you can encourage them to be able to possibly even help them and give them tools on how to deal with it. Like for myself, is that the times that I've acted on fear rather than what I really wanted to do in my heart, I've learned a lot from that. It doesn't really work in the long run. So that so-called failure of my own inner ethic really turned my life in a different direction. So now, if I really want to go through something and it involves something that's scary, is I acknowledge that first, and then I see how fear operates in myself. And in the main, is it first operates on the idea of thought, it will turn out this way, when ultimately I really don't know how that's going to turn out, and rather allow myself to experience whatever is here now. And in that process, the energy of fear is brought in. And then I feel it and experience it. Fear is never pleasant, but if you use that fear, then you can be very present to whatever is happening, and you don't have to act out on the ideas and beliefs that are going on around it. And you know, a lot of times when I learned about fear, it's like usually I care about things, and I want, you know, I want them. I want to be able to tell the truth. I want to be able to be a benefit in a situation. So I gather that energy, and it may be difficult for me to say something, but then I find a way of doing it. And the same thing is like, there's a certain amount of anxiety before I give a Dharma talk. And I know that's because I care. I don't want to give people bullshit. So then I use that energy to address things in a way that I want to do it. And it's the same, you know, it's like a year ago, I had to perform down at Sweetwater, doing about 3 songs that I hardly had any chance to rehearse. It was the same thing. I became very focused, and there was fear there, but the fear gathered the energy, and I went through it. And I looked at the videos later, I didn't even look like I was scared, but inside. But you know, the thing is that you bring that energy in, then you can channel it. If you just let it go out, you really don't gain much from it. But the first thing is to see how that fear operates. It's not, well, this is bad. It's like, feel it, experience it, feel how you feel it in the body, and then learn how to channel it. And in time, there'll be less barriers in your functioning in that way. Okay, thanks, Gabriel.
Roshi, that puts you in good company with Beyonce, who has said that she gets extremely anxious before a performance if she's not anxious.
Yeah. Well, you can see the amount of energy that goes into it. There's a focus there. And we all have various, you know, ways that we focus. And it's important to use that in terms of like our own Zazen, our own life. And then things become clear in that way. Yeah. There's no energy, you know, negative or positive energy that isn't useful in various ways for us as human beings. I don't mean as it is, you know, we refine that. That's what the work is. That's where the transformation comes from. It's like in Buddhism, we say that greed, anger, and ignorance are the 3 hidden virtues. You know, but that doesn't mean that they suddenly appear that way. It's the work of feeling these things, experiencing them, how to enlist them, how to use them. It takes a while, you know. I was very fiery as a kid. I fought until I was about 18. Once I began to look into the nature of anger and the various other things, and I never hit anybody since, you know. But, you know, it doesn't end with that. It's how do you enlist those energies and use it to go through things that are difficult for us as human beings. And it's a process, you know. Maizumi Roshi was very well rounded in terms of his emotional reach. You know, it wasn't like he became something that was like deadpan. Those emotions would be coming in, but they were pretty clean. You know, they weren't like blaming other people around them, you know. So that's part of that process, is how to be fully human, how to be able to engage in these things appropriately to the circumstances there. Great, thank you.
Arthur and Melanie, I see you popped your cameras on. Is that a hand up or is it just a camera on? Okay. Mel, you're usually good for something. You good?
Glad you're good.
I am so good for nothing right now, and I'm happy.
Yeah, good. Yeah.
Yeah. But thank you so
Me
much.
too.
For
I'm
lovely
good for
talk.
nothing.
I'm good for gratitude. Thank you, Tenshin.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. You're welcome.
Soko or Melanie joins us from the Bay Area. And
oh, nice. Great.
Yeah. And her sister Amber is on. Amber, I'm going to call on you just for a second. First, just I'm happy you got to meet my teacher, Tenshin Roshi, and the Abbot of Zen Mountain, Yokoji Zen Mountain Center. You're relatively new to all of this. Do you have any questions for Roshi? Just anything that pops up? Or anything's fair game.
I don't have a question. I just want to thank you. I came in with so much fear and story and just chaos in my mind. And I'm just like, oh, I don't have to do that. So
good. Don't.
Thank you.
Yeah, good. But you know that it's kind of interesting. But the root of the precept, "Do not be intoxicated," actually is do not bring in intoxicants, and this is a good example. We bring in these things that intoxicate our own minds. I'm not talking about drugs and alcohol now. Is that just with thought, various thoughts, we poison our own being. And part of it, you know, what I was saying earlier is put thought on one side, is that these things, again, that we're afraid of, is that we'll find out how it's going to be rather than it's going to be this way, you know. And if you leave an open space, and you never know what's going to come in.
So I think we're getting close to the end of our time. So last call, anybody?
Good.
Sharma, Mark, you want to, Sharma, go. Yeah.
Go, Sharma.
Hello, and thank you so much for your talk today. You mentioned the nature of anger, and other than knowing that it comes and goes and that it can be channeled, what would you say the nature of anger consists of?
Well, you know, the main thing is that it's empty. Everything is empty. All emotions are empty. In other words, that they have no fixed entity. It's like sadness. You know, each of these things are direct reactions to our environment in whatever way. But the thing is, it's not important to have the intellectual understanding of it. It's important to be able to be the container of those things and realize that these things are not permanent. So when that occurs, be that thoroughly. It doesn't mean that you have to discharge it, which is the way that anger is usually seen. Is feel it, experience the vastness of that energy, and it's incredible. You can play with it. You can, you know, I'm not saying conjure it up, but when you're angry, it's just like see how far it extends. Let it fill your room. Let it fill the state. Let it fill the country. Let it fill the world. Let it fill the universe. When you see that it's universal, you know, a lot of our things about trying to keep it in and not let it be shown is like, you see how kind of a poor strategy that is, you know. But then it's a matter of then how do I communicate it when I need to communicate rather than trying to damage, which is the easy way.
Right.
You know, so the first thing is to feel it. It's more like you're a special forces soldier rather than somebody trying to smash it. Is you You look at it, you see how it works, you feel it. Then you have some power in the midst of it. You have some more information. And then you can be a lot more skillful and then again in how you deal with it in yourself, energetically, how you feel it, how you experience it, then how you communicate with others, and then how you channel that in doing the things that you need to do. Because, you know, it's just like sometimes you got something to do and you're getting all these distractions. You're just like, God damn it, do it. And then you just use that energy and something gets taken care of. That's a positive use of it. You know, or if somebody's trying to tell, you know, one of the things with anger is it cuts through bullshit really well. You know, especially in yourself or in other people. If somebody starts to tell you something that's not true, you go straight to the point that's not true. But then how do you communicate it in such a way that it gives them some information that can stop them just spreading these things that are not reflective of reality in that way? You know, so it's a very broad subject, but you'll see the same place that feels anger is also the same place that feels love. And you see that it's almost like we enter into realms as human beings. But it's important to see that we go through these realms, that in time is that you become at home in these energies. You may not like them, but you realize this is what's happening now. This is exactly what I've got to learn from.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know?
Thank you. Thank you. That's helpful for me.
Thank you. All right. I think for you guys, you should wash my words out of your ears and get on with session at this point. No, it's too much talk. Yeah, great.
Roshi, thank you so much for joining.
All right. No, thank you. Appreciate it.
All right. Yeah. And everybody, thank you for your practice.
Thank you. I vow to say them, delusions are inexhaustible. I vow to put an end to them.